she could name, this was Porter's house, and this so and so's, and this was White's, and that sort of thing.
And this person had 3 children, and this one had 2. This one had this, and she had a very, very sharp memory until she passed at 95. Well, it was a small town, and there wasn't a lot of people there and whatnot, and it was just a small area.
Primarily logging.
Yeah.
In fact, 100% wood products.
Wood products. My mother would talk about the stories when they would have to come down the canyon, but they were driving on a one-way dirt road. And so when you were going to meet somebody had to stop or get off to the side. And if you can imagine a logging truck meeting a vehicle, and at that time, the vehicles were only traveling 20 to 30 miles an hour. I think they saw it as a development, hoped that it would be better. The 17 miles above where they actually lived, my grandfather helped pioneer the road that went across the Santiam Pass. And so I think they saw it as a development of the area. I think they were sad to see the old Detroit disappear, and they were glad when several of the houses were moved from old Detroit into the town of what we call New Detroit. And so I think they were glad to see the homes be able to be moved so that those families didn't have to give up their actual home.
It's really hard to say what they should know. It's, it was a community, and back then, as young as you are, even as young as we are, but times were a whole lot different then. They were dependent on the community, on their neighbors. That's something that as time has gone by, that commitment to the neighbor, that has gone away. So as the elders grow up with the new generation, they tend to forget that old part themselves because they're living in today. And so for them to remember and talk about that, it's hard for us to relate to that.
Most of those families that knew what that was, the families are gone. And then as the generations have gone, they have moved on to other areas. Yeah. Well, I think that's one thing that Dr. Reinhardt's trying to do, is he's pulling together people of our age or older that have stories from their parents or their grandparents, so that does preserve the history of the area. My mother sat down and hand drew, a map of the town of the old Detroit.
She remembered it.
And she remembered it, yeah. Yeah, I think it's very well received that what he's doing is trying to preserve the history of these areas that did lose, their homes or their land or their town, their drowned town. So we're very, very much in awe about all the things that he's been able to pull together from these things.
It was kind of done behind the scenes, so we don't know, who was involved in the video recordings and that sort of thing. A couple of them we knew, and some of them were probably grandchildren of ones from there. So there's a lot of things that are lost in that length of time.
But what he's trying to pull together from those things, and they scanned pictures, articles, they tried to do all the stuff that they do that was in the process of what you can do nowadays that people didn't have then. So he was trying to reconstruct that, which I think is just great for the area. And whichever areas he goes, is going to work on next, and the other graduate students that are working to do it are pulling that together for that area, because that's the history of that area, or wherever else there was a dam that had a drowned town.